Alright, you lot. They're calling Silksong's 20 quid price tag unhealthy expectations for future of games. Unhealthy? My ass. What's unhealthy is dog shit we keep getting spoon-fed at 70 quid a pop from studios with thousands of staff and a budget big enough to build a space station. And they still can't ship we out day one patches bigger than bloody game. 3 blokes, 7 years, and they've put together something smoother than half at AAA industry could dream of. Yet some daft sods want to cry it's too cheap? Let's get this straight. Silksong being good value don't ruin industry. It shines a spotlight on greedy bastards who can't deliver without DLC duct tape and microtransactions stuck up their ass. Aye, for you, mon. Like, subscribe and all that bollocks. Cause that's the only way I keep stabbing this corpse in industry without selling out. That's real wound here. It's not price that's scary, it's fact a small indie team is showing up companies with 600 devs and a marketing budget that could feed Yorkshire for a year, and it's leaving fat cats terrified. Cause no matter how they dress it up, less than 20 quid for brilliance makes your 70 quid disaster look like they were cooked by a blindfolded donkey with boxing gloves on. It's kicker. Instead of owning up to their own failures, these publishers are trying to use Silksong as bloody scapegoat. They look at it, see a polished single-player game made by only 3 devs, and it makes them look daft as a brush. So instead of saying, maybe we mismanaged things, they point at Silksong and go, that's unfair pressure on rest of us. Sling your up, lads. You're terrified of being compared. This is with Bow tastes sweetest, because every silky jump, every polished frame of this game is just twisting knife deeper into their excuses. Fanful of devs can make something this sharp without crunching the souls into dust. What's your excuse with your corporate armies and coke-fueled budget meetings? You don't have one. You just don't like mirror being shoved in your face. Here's where hypocrisy reeks worse than a pub carpet on a Monday morning. Gamers will line up, wallets open, drop 70 quid on a AAA mess that crashes more often than Windows ME, then turn around and sneer at a 20 quid indie masterpiece for being too cheap. Too cheap? You daft sods. You've been bent over so long by publishers that you think lube is a luxury feature. When a big studio with thousands of devs fucks up, players shrug and say, that's just industry. But when 3 devs serve up a flawless game out of a back garden shed, suddenly it's unhealthy expectations. It's not expectations, it's embarrassment. Embarrassment to realising you've been defending Brock and Slot while better games get made for pocket money. If brains were made of dynamite, half these apologists wouldn't have enough to blow the fucking nose. They'll preach consumer rates like gospel, then pay full price for buggy betas padded with season passes. That's not loyalty, that's Stockholm Syndrome. Meanwhile, Silksong dares to give you value for money and somehow that's a crime. It's truth they don't want to swallow. It's not Silksong that creates unhealthy expectations, it's players who do. Every indie game is treated like it has to be flawless, groundbreaking, and patched daily, while AAA gets away with murder. Indies are expected to run smoother than gravy on chips, but second a $1 billion studio fumbles a release, it's all, game time, they'll fix it. That double standard, it's real cancer in gaming. You lot cry about consumer rates on day one, then happily hand over 70 quid next for an unfinished corpse of a game. No refunds, no shame. But when a 3-man team spends 7 years making something tight, fun, and polished, you start clutching your pearls about how it's too cheap. That's not concern for industry, that's you protecting your abusers because you can't face admitting you've been rinsed. Silksong proves that quality don't need bloated budgets or corporate parasites to thrive. If that makes AAA execs sweat, good. If that makes some players feel daft for defending broken games, even better. It's not unhealthy to expect games to work at launch. It's unhealthy to keep excusing those that don't. Let's drag some receipts out of cupboard. Minecraft. Remember that little blocky bastard? Dropped around same price as Silksong back in 2011. 2 years in oven. Team of 20 odd devs. And it blew doors off industry. Nobody moaned it were too cheap. Nobody cried that it set unhealthy expectations. They just played it until their eyes bled and it went on to become one of the biggest games in history. Fast forward to now, Mojang's got about 600 devs. Minecraft still tops charts. And you don't hear a single suit whinging that its early price poisoned well. Funny that, when a game becomes a cultural juggernaut, narrative changes. Cheap becomes genius. Accessible becomes visionary. But when Silksong comes along, polished, priced fair, and made by 3 lads in a shed, suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly it's too cheap, too good, too scary for status quo. It's not a coincidence. Industry only cries about price when it exposes their incompetence. Minecraft were lightning in a bottle. Silksong is a boot-up ass. Both prove same thing. Value's not enemy. Greed is. See, too many cooks spoil broth. But in AAA lands, they don't just spoil it, they piss in it, charge you for the spoon, and sell you salt as DLC. That's fear factor. Silksong ain't just a game, it's a threat to gravy train. And lads on top know it. Every frame of Silksong running on screen is a big fat middle finger to excuses. Look at it, tight as a drum, smooth as silk, fun from first swing, and it costs less than a takeaway curry. Meanwhile, AAA lads with the cinematic trailers and mocap armies can't even get the menus to load without bricking your save file. That's not unhealthy expectations, that's called doing your job right. And funniest part, complainers know it. That's why they're squealing. Every dash ornate mechs is twisting knife. Every polished animation is another boot to the bollocks. They can't stand the idea that quality can come without corporate bloat. So they project. They call it too cheap. They call it dangerous. Dangerous, my ass. It's only dangerous if you built your empire on lies and DLC-shaped duct tape. Watching these twonks panic is like watching someone blame Mirror for making them look ugly. Nah, mate, it's just your face. Silksong ain't problem, your excuses are. Longer it sits at 20 quid delivering joy, louder your cries sound like daft toddlers denied the sweets. Here's a sledgehammer straight at bollocks. Corporate greed hates Silksong cause it rips mass clean off. They've built this whole empire on idea that games need bloated budgets, endless crunch, 5 studios working around clock, and then they charge you 70 quid for privilege of beta testing it. Silksong strolls in, costs a fraction, works at launch, and players love it. That's nightmare scenario for fat cats, cause it proves their excuses are pissing wind. This ain't about price being unhealthy, it's about greed being exposed. They can't hide behind production values or marketing gloss when 3 blokes are making them look like amateurs. They've pissed in their own broth for years, and Silksong just walked in and served a proper meal for pocket change. Of course they hate it, of course they're squealing. It's the first real boot up arse industry's had in years. So now, 20 quid into an unhealthy expectation. What's unhealthy is us swallowing brock and trash at triple price and calling it normal. Silksong ain't problem, it's cure. And if that cure burnt parasites out of industry, then pour another pint and let it burn. And that's punchline, innit? Only people calling Silksong too cheap at once scared of what it represents. Players who can't admit they've been bent over by AAA greed for years, and execs terrified of losing the grip on your wallets. 20 quid for brilliance don't ruin industry, it ruins their excuses. And I'll tell you what, long may it continue. Cause second we stop swallowing their brock and shite, it's second this industry has to finally change. Join Discord, follow on X, links are in the description. Consider a channel membership if you want rants raw and early. Smash like it, subscribe, drop your comments and questions below so I can laugh at daftest texts. And I'll see you next time, you magnificent.